Hello, welcome to another episode of the Culinary Enthusiast. Today we've got some special guests, Brooke and Ben from Quarry Hill Orchards. Where is Quarry Hill Orchards located?
Kristian, we're a little west of here in a town called Berlin Heights. I think that's about, 30-minute drive in this morning?
Yeah.
In Erie County.
Right outside Lorain County, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the history of Quarry Hill Orchard and kind of how you guys got started and, some of the history.
So it certainly was around long before my wife and I, Brooke, moved back home. But my grandfather started the farm early 30s, 1931. He and his brother moved out from this part of the world in Lorain County, originally working in the steel mills to start farming in Erie County. And so he and his brother started farming, and primarily vegetables, but my grandfather did plant a few trees, a few old Golden Delicious and Red Delicious apple trees to complement their vegetables.
And about when was that?
Early 30s.
So early 30s, let me ask you this. In early 30s, were those apples different than the apples that we have today?
They are, Kristian, and that's part of being relevant in our business today. There's a constant evolution and turnover of the trees that we grow to do a couple of things. One, grow apples that are in demand, that are in vogue. Everybody wants Honeycrisp now, and Gala and Fuji. Those apples didn't exist when my grandfather started, and even when my father was farming. So that's one factor that drives our decisions. And then also, efficiency technologies that have become available to us as growers to grow more productive trees and eat trees that are easier to manage and give us higher quality fruit.
So just like a lot of other plants, maybe the new varieties of these trees are more resistant to disease, more resistant to pests and things like that too?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
So if you were, and you weren't around in the 30s, I don't think, you don't look that old.
Right.
But, so if you were to kind of compare, do you think that they're better? Do you think, because, there's this big trend in culinary world about heirloom things. And are there heirloom apples? Is there such thing as an heirloom apple?
To say better or worse is probably in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
I find value in both. For us to follow our business model, we have to grow these new up-and-coming apples. But Brooke and I, and my dad, who's still very much the captain of our little operation, enjoy these apples from antiquity that have a really neat story. In that it was Thomas Jefferson's favorite apple, that being Spitzenberg.
Okay. Spitzenberg is a variety of apple.
It is.
So I didn't know that. So what is that apple like?
It's really hard to grow, and so it's fun to talk about all these new varieties, but we also have to think about the bottom line and the logistics behind.
Right. Shelf life, how do they store,
right.
That kind of thing. So with that, actually, thinking of storage and shelf life and seasons, so what is the season in Ohio, and central, north central Ohio for growing apples?
Okay.
Well, for our farm, harvest starts with our cherries in June, and then progresses to peaches, July, August. And then we really get into the first apples end of August. That variety is Gala. And the harvest season kicks off with Galas and progresses all the way through to into November. This year, with the seasonably warm fall and winter we've had, Dad says we've never picked apples as late as we did this year.
Right.
In his entire tenure of farming. November 20th was the last date that our crew was out picking Pink Lady.
Right.
So that's my favorite.
Right.
I love
So
Pink Lady
here's
apples.
while we're talking
Those
about Pink
are the
Lady,
best.
this is a Pink Lady
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
There you have it.
And if you haven't ever eaten a Pink Lady, I describe it as eating an apple that tastes like a sweet tart.
Right.
I mean, it's got this really sweet burst and then this little pucker sour kind of thing that comes after that.
I got another one for you, Kristian. If Pink Lady is your fan favorite, that's a good one. Another great late season apple, and we'll go into describing a few of these other apples that we've got. But while we're on that topic, this guy right here, Gold Rush, a little deceiving, kind of golden delicious-ish.
Yeah, that's what it kind of looks like.
But man,
So before you cut into that,
Yeah.
though, so like I know like delicious apples have what, five little bumps on the bottom of them?
Red
is it
Delicious
four?
have a more pronounced
We don't even have a delicious apple.
No, okay, because I think that they have 4 or 5
nodes on
bumps.
the,
Yeah.
they call this the calyx end of the apple.
Okay.
Stem, calyx, for if you guys
Very
can pick up
nice.
on that.
Very nice. I didn't know that.
A little bit of an apple anatomy. So calyx, stem. These little dots, if you guys can zoom in, are called lenticels, and that's how an apple breathes. Believe it or not.
So
that apple is
leading into
naturally
storage, that'd be a good.
respirating. Yeah, if we want to talk storage real quick, so we'll get to tasting it here real soon.
All right,
But
promise.
apple anatomy, just building the anticipation.
Right, because if it tastes better than
Right,
I'm all about
You're
it.
ready, you're ready, you're ready.
So apples breathe, apples respirate, and they also, as with most fresh produce, they break down. So one of the things that's our challenge as a grower is to maintaining freshness.
Right.
If we say we picked a gala apple in
Right.
the beginning of September, here we are in December, and that apple has to be firm and crisp for our customers to enjoy, for you to enjoy as a chef, making your magic.
Right,
So how do we do that?
Sorry to interrupt. Like here we are in December, and these Granny Smiths that we brought today were harvested October 20th.
And they look
So
amazing.
How do we do that?
Right, how
It's-
do you do
it's
that? So we
magic.
always want to know.
Right.
And then, so how do we do that? How do you do it? And then best storage practices for the chef
Right.
when it comes to
Okay.
us. What is the best way to store apples?
So people that aren't familiar with the apple industry assume that the apple season is when harvest occurs, and it's really this extended season industry because we have technology that allows us to keep the apples even into the springtime. For example, last year, the Red Delicious market was flooded, and if you were buying Red Delicious this summer, chances were it came from last season's harvest because there was so many, and the industry has the...
It lasted that long?
We have special technology called controlled atmospheric storage.
Okay.
And it involves, we have this engineering background, and so
Right.
Ben gets...
Sounds like some Apple magic going on there or something like that.
To dive just a little bit into how that magic happens, you bite into an apple, and you sit it on the counter, and it rusts. So that rusting is an oxidation.
Right.
So we can store these apples in this controlled atmosphere storage, where we extract, we pull out the oxygen in the room.
Oh, okay. So there's
Seal
nothing
off
that's
the
gonna
room.
cause them to oxidize or anything like that.
It maintains the
Very
integrity,
nice.
the freshness, and so that's how we're able to service our school programs
Right.
through the springtime, our grocery customers.
Nice segue.
Yes.
Nice segue. Okay,
Okay.
so I know that you guys are doing some really cool stuff with schools right now.
Yes.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing with the schools.
Okay, so upon our return back, this is our 3rd season, we had to identify new revenue streams to kind of substantiate our return, our full-time salaries. We don't have off-farm income. And so we needed to identify new market segments and to be competitive and relevant, and with the excitement of people knowing where their food comes from, who grows it, sourcing local. We just thought as farmers it was mandatory, especially with this controlled extended season, that it was our responsibility to offer schools, hey, divert some of your income from these larger produce companies getting produce from across the country to your local footprint. So we've been delivering to over 60 kitchens weekly in a 5-county region: Erie, Lorain, Cuyahoga, and Summit, and we service
Awesome.
a bunch of schools right here in Lorain
Yeah,
County.
that's awesome.
Yes.
And I know that that local sustainable produce has been a big movement for schools too. They want to buy local, they want to teach local, and so support the local economy as well as have a freshest product that they can have.
Yep.
So
We just were awarded a grant, a farm to school grant, and we'll be working on expanding our offerings to bring more local produce into the schools.
nice.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So
All right, so we are going to move into, and we'll come back to these apples. Yeah, I want to try that.
Shall we just have a?
Yeah.
A quick
I'm getting
taste?
hungry. I think we need a snack.
I want
Yeah,
a
a quick
slice.
I
taste.
think we need a snack.
All right.
So Gold Rush, again, late season
Thank
apple.
you.
You know, this tartness, Granny Smith Pink Lady, but man, there's a lot going on.
That
like I
is
said.
awesome.
There's a lot
Wow.
going on there.
Yeah, it's a
So
favorite.
where do I get those?
At Quarry Hill Orchards.
All right. I'll
We
be
did
out
we
there.
did a taste test in Strongsville
Amazing.
with Gold Rush, and with Red Delicious, and every kid voted on the Gold Rush. So there you have it.
They are awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm gonna keep these.
we're going to do something really cool now. We're going to make some apple strudel. And this is a
Okay.
pretty,
Should we put our aprons on?
yeah,
Is this
there's
time
some
to
aprons
get-
right over there for you guys.
Okay.
This recipe for the dough is super easy. It's only got a few ingredients, so we're going to whip together a recipe of dough. We won't use that dough because it needs about 10 minutes to relax, or not 10 minutes, more like an hour to relax actually before you use it, to let that gluten kind of relax. So, but we're going to make a recipe of that dough.
Make your own dough. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I know some strudel is made with, they use a
Strudel or streusel?
strudel.
Strudel.
They might use like a phyllo, something like that. We're not going to use a phyllo. We're going to make our
Okay.
own dough today.
Okay.
Am I allowed to snack as we?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to start with an egg,
1 egg.
a couple ounces of butter, and that's been kind of a softened butter. A little bit of salt. 12 ounces of high gluten flour, quarter or 3/4 of a cup of water. Just pour it all in there. And even though we're using a high gluten flour, we have we've added butter to this, which actually shortens the strands of gluten in the flour. So
Okay.
anytime you add a fat to some type of a high gluten flour, it actually kind of shortens the gluten strands, but they're still going to be nice and flexible, but it's going to be a nice, easy dough to work. So we're going to let this come together.
Okay.
And while that's coming together, though, we're going to go ahead and get out the dough that we made yesterday. And the reason that we have this tablecloth down is because when we go to roll this up, you use the tablecloth to roll it. And so you'll see, it's pretty cool. As I said, it's a lot of fun. This would be a great thing to do with your kids over
the
break or
holidays,
something
yeah.
like that, right?
Okay. Okay.
So we're going to flour this. Okay. Then
Hold it up. I'll have another slice. Well, I better not touch it. Okay. So you made this yesterday, and how long did you have this sitting out, kind of warming up?
well, so after I made it, I threw it in the freezer yesterday,
Okay.
and then I pulled it out this morning so it would slack out a little bit. So
Okay.
I didn't want it to get too
Is that
sit in the
Is
cooler.
that coming off at all? No.
yeah,
no.
that bowl kind of popped off of there, didn't it? Let's fix that. Good call there, Brooke.
I didn't want it to spin off and spin out of control there.
It'd make for good television.
Right. Our safety compliance officer here. Yeah,
We should do this with our kids, honey.
yeah. All right. So we'll get that up. And this dough is actually almost done already anyways, but we're going to let that go a little bit longer. Okay, so we've got this dough.
Okay.
And this is kind of the fun part. We get a little flour on it, and what we're going to do is we're going to stretch this dough. And we just kind of work on the outside first, and we want to pull that out. And the goal of this is actually to get it thin enough that you can read a newspaper through it. Okay,
Really?
that's the goal, yeah. And
it
it'll
won't tear
stretch.
or break?
And if
Okay,
it
do you want
tears a
some
little
help?
bit, it's okay, yeah.
Are you gonna roll it?
We will eventually. So if you get a little tear or something in it, it's really not that big of a deal. So now after we get it kind of stretched out a little bit, you
Okay.
guys just put your hands right underneath it and kind of hold it and stretch. Oh, not like that. Just kidding.
Don't touch it!
So we're
Hold
doing
it
great.
and
Yeah.
stretch.
Oh wow.
Yeah, see how nice and soft that
Okay.
dough is?
Like,
Yeah.
read a newspaper through that portion, right?
Yeah,
Totally.
so we still got a little ways to go though. All right,
How big will this get? The size of a paper, newspaper?
it'll get pretty big.
Bigger? Okay. Oops.
I know the newspaper is where you have to read through it.
Okay, I'm getting
All right, keep it on the table though, guys. All right.
I'm excited here.
I know, it's fun, right? So get up underneath and then just kind of give it a stretch. Nice, but isn't that dough awesome?
Whoa.
Yes, wait, so,
So it's the gluten that
if you had a
binds
gluten-free
it
dough,
together.
would it not do this?
Right, yeah, it wouldn't
Gluten-free-
stretch. You wouldn't have that elasticity, the spring that this
Oh,
has. So this has
okay.
got a lot of spring to it, right?
Right.
So I think we're pretty good. We've
Okay.
got that nice and thin. The problem is, you see how thick the edges are a little bit?
Right,
So we need
right.
to do something.
So
I'm gonna
roller-
give somebody the job to kind of scissor around these. So what we're gonna do is just cut.
Why don't you want the thick edges? Because they'll cook differently than the insides?
Yeah, they get real tough and
Okay,
they're kind of get like a real hard.
okay, I can get you over on this side.
All right, let me pass it over to you.
Apple strudel.
Yes,
Okay.
from scratch.
Is this Kristian Smith's recipe?
This actually came out of the Professional Pastry Chef cookbook,
Okay.
and that's my. Now I modified it a little bit. The dough is pretty much straight out of that book.
Is this something that you do with your students at all through the?
Now
Through the
I don't
curriculum that
teach
you
the
built?
bakery class,
Okay.
but this is definitely a technique that students would be learning in the bakery classes. They
Okay.
should be, learning all the different kinds of doughs.
Okay.
So what kind of, this is a pastry dough? Is that what you're calling it?
Well, it's interesting. Like this is a strudel dough. It's very different. There's no sugar in it, so it's not a sweet dough. It's just a
Oh.
dough, and it's kind of almost like a pie crust kind of thing
Okay.
Okay.
that happens. Okay, so
All right, we got our dough.
we've got our dough.
Now we get to do some apple work?
Yeah, and
All
we're going
right.
to do actually. We have Granny Smith apples that we're going to take and these started to oxidize just a little bit, but it's not a big deal because we're going to cover them up with all kinds of, and that actually is called enzymatic browning. The enzymes start to brown up, and that's what that's called.
Interesting sidebar on that note, if I may.
Yes,
So, apple farmers have to fight a lot of public perception about standard practices and
So
whatnot.
that was cinnamon sugar. Go ahead.
But prior to the, we historically have not had to discuss the GMO conversation.
Oh, right.
Until
I don't know
just
if we want to go there.
Right.
So walnuts, keep going.
Until recently, there has just in the last couple of years been introduced a GMO apple
Really?
that doesn't oxidize.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not
Yes,
sure I
yes,
like
yes.
that,
Yeah.
All right, so what we're going to use too in these, instead of raisins, the recipe called for raisins, I wanted to use some dried cherries. So we've got a sour cherry that we're going to add to those, and then we also have got little chunks of butter that we're going to kind of throw in there. So right now, sugar, cinnamon, apples, Granny Smith apples, just like those right there, butter, and the sour cherries.
So why Granny Smith for baking, Farmer Ben?
Right.
Because that's what Grandma used.
All right.
Now-
I could say why I like to use Granny Smith.
Well, you could do even a combination. I mean, there's so many different kinds of apples we grow, and there's other apple varieties that have the same baking characteristics.
As
Could
a
you do
Granny
a
Smith.
little-
We get a lot of customers that come out to the farm that
get asked this all
have
the-
their own preferences, and my
let
mom
me scooch in
used
there if I
Okay.
can.
used a combination.
You guys can
of
help. We
Yeah,
can
yeah,
put
just-
that in there, but keep going.
Melrose and Jonagold was my mom and dad's favorite.
Yeah.
We have a customer over in Westlake that makes pies and uses exclusively Golden Delicious.
Delicious.
'Cause
Really?
That's what he likes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because that's kind of a softer apple, right?
It is. And for whatever reason, in his flavor profile, it works for him.
He likes that.
So,
So
really,
here's
there's
a-
no wrong answer.
Yeah. So here's a kicker.
Oh, what's that?
What's that?
So we've got cake crumbs. So we've got a white cake crumb that we're going to kind of sprinkle around. That starts to help to suck up some of the moisture.
Okay.
Okay.
So the original recipe for this actually had croutons that were, unseasoned croutons, but just
Okay.
croutons in there.
So this is one of your modifications then?
Yes, my
Okay.
modifications for that.
Okay.
So then we're gonna.
Interesting.
This is the fun part. You
I've
guys
never
ready
made
to do
it.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna
Okay,
do, so
take
you
the
grab that
tablecloth.
side, and we're gonna kind of start to loosely, just kind of.
Oh, no way.
Right.
get out.
Isn't that awesome? Okay, now, so
No
here's
way.
the trick.
Reminds me of rolling
How
a,
do we get it onto the tray?
we keep rolling
Roll it
it.
So
up.
and
we're
we roll.
actually going to take it and pop it right up there.
Oh!
Okay, just like so. Okay, and that's ready to go in the oven. We'll brush that with a little butter,
Okay.
throw some sugar on it, ready to go.
Perfect.
All right?
Perfect.
All right, so now what we've got, we'll kind of clean this up, and let's talk about what we made yesterday, because we actually have some finished apple strudel that we made yesterday.
Okay.
And
we get to taste test our
yeah,
that
so we
right?
can taste test that.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and we'll head out there.
Okay.
That's probably the best thing to do. So, come on out here. Let me get some gloves too. Be right back. But
You can see
so
those cherries add a nice
Right.
color.
That was
nice
another.
visual.
That was another modification from the raisin
right.
alternative.
Not only do the cherries add that color to it, but they really add a nice texture and flavor profile to that too.
Kristian, if I may ask, tart versus sweet on the cherries. So you decided to go with tart. Is there a
'Cause
reason?
I
Is
wanted that pow. You
Okay,
know, that little bit
okay.
of a snap when you
Okay.
kind of eat that. It's got just a little different flavor
Do we
profile.
grow that kind of cherry?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Okay, so I've
Okay.
got some caramel sauce in here, and we've got our plate. So we're just going to take a couple pieces of the strudel that we made yesterday, kind of lay those on the plate here.
Okay. So tell me, you put this in the oven at what for how long?
About 400 degrees, 375, 400 degrees, and it take about 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Takes
And
a
you have
while
to
to
cover
cook.
it, uncover it in the oven.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then a little caramel on there.
Powdered sugar, you said?
Got some powdered sugar on there, so that's that. We can go back there and we can taste it, and then we'll talk a
Yeah,
little bit more
okay.
about some of the other things that you guys are doing.
Perfect.
Wow.
Looks beautiful.
This out of here.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
it's dripping yumminess.
Okay, I'm making this for Christmas. I'm gonna.
are you? I
I
think that'd be a
I-
fun thing to do with your
Our daughter
kids,
Kim
right?
would love
I
to.
know. Now that we're done with harvest, I have time to be in the kitchen a little bit more. So, thank you.
Yeah. So let's give it a shot. So,
Okay, go ahead, Chef Kristian. You're first.
no, you guys try. I tried it
Okay,
yesterday. You guys
okay.
taste.
First.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna get into
Okay.
this.
So let's talk a little bit. So we've got a couple minutes left too. So let's revisit these
Yeah.
varieties of
Shall we?
the apples too.
I
after
better
we get
make
a
sure
little
this
taste.
is okay first.
Okay, high quality
Yeah.
strudel.
That's delicious.
Good.
And it's not super sweet.
Right, and so I made this yesterday and I thought, you know what, it wasn't sweet enough. So I actually added a little more sugar today. So this batch is going to have a little bit more sugar in it than,
I love the tart and I love the nut. You get the crunch.
so I'm glad that you're kind of describing what you like and what you don't like about it because, or that you didn't say anything
No,
you
I
didn't
don't-
like,
mm-mm.
but because, you know, a lot of
Love
times
it.
when people, you say, hey, what do you like about it? And what don't you like about it? And students have a hard time articulating what they like about it. So really kind of thinking
Oh,
about
okay.
what you're eating is really important, what you do like, what you don't like.
Yeah, I love the different textures. I think that's really important in a complex dish is getting the crunch, the sweet, the tart, the
You know, there's nothing soggy about this. The moisture from the apples has been absorbed, I assume, by those cake crumbs that you put in.
Right, they help for sure.
Okay,
was,
that's delicious.
All right,
Oh,
so let's talk a little bit more about the varieties of apples that you guys have here.
Sure.
Okay, pop quiz. Pick one out.
Well, I know that one was the pink lady.
Uh-huh.
So we've got, what's that one?
That's a cameo.
And what are the characteristics of a cameo?
You know, its
not very-
parentage is Red Delicious-esque, but has a lot more pop, a lot more crispness to it. Stores fairly well. Dad had thought it's a phenomenal apple. As a result, we've got a ton of cameo on our farm.
So
it's been a great apple for us.
If you guys said, hey, what is the apple? What is your go-to apple that you
Okay,
love?
here's-
What is it?
Here's the thing. People call this time of year, I want Honeycrisp, I want Honeycrisp. And I go, no, you don't. Honeycrisp was harvested a little bit earlier. It's not, the integrity of the Honeycrisp is not the best this time of year, so I would send them to a Crimson Crisp, which is like a sister to Honey Crisp. It's crisp, it's sweet, it's beautiful, it's that red, super yummy. Or a Sun Crisp. Fuji is another late season contender with the Honey Crisp. So people come into the barn, I would say Crimson Crisp, Fuji, Pink Lady,
Got all kinds
and
of good
Cameo.
ones.
These are all
Those
late
it.
season.
So if somebody wanted this nice kit here, this apple kit, how do they get that? I see a little flyer that you've got
Yeah,
here.
we have an online store called shop.quarryhillorchards.com. And this box comes with a map, so you know exactly which varieties you're tasting.
Kind of like a nice little box of chocolates,
Yep.
but a box of apples.
Right.
And on the back, it tells you what you're eating. So it's meant to be an educational piece for the consumer to understand what Ohio apples are and what they taste like.
Very nice.
So,
Well, I appreciate you guys coming in today. And
well, thanks
you
for
know,
having us.
yeah, it was fun.
really
You know, this
cool.
was really fun. Hopefully, you guys learned some things about how to make a apple strudel.
Yeah.
And you probably have made that many, many times.
No,
I'm
I've never
thinking.
have. I'm
Okay,
being
all right.
completely honest. And my husband grows the apples. I need to learn how to do this.
Okay.
How could we go about getting the exact recipe from you guys?
I'll give
if we
when
wanted
you
to
guys
do
leave.
that?
I'll give you a copy of the
Oh,
recipe.
great,
No
awesome.
worries.
Okay.
Yeah. So so they go online to order this at this shop.quarryhillorchards, all one word.com.
Yep.
And do you guys have like a store that people can go to and
Yeah,
things like that?
we've got a great little market
Okay.
out in Berlin Heights, so it's a great drive from here at the campus.
Very
And we're really rocking and rolling with all those quintessential fall farm activities. September, October.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming out
Yes,
again today.
thank you.
so much
It
for
was
your
so
time.
fun.
My hand's a little
Thank you very
sticky. I
much.
got that
Yeah.
sugar on there, but thanks for tuning in today with the episode of the Culinary Enthusiast here at Lorain County Community College Culinary Arts Program. And have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thanks.